CBS News Special Report. I'm Jerika Duncan in New York. We are coming on the air tonight to report yet another mass shooting in this country. At least 2 people have been shot and killed at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. That is according to the city's mayor, Brett Smiley, who also says 8 people are in critical but stable condition. The shooter is still at large. The mass shooting happened earlier this afternoon on campus.
We are following another deadly mass shooting, this one in Australia, where police say 2 gunmen opened fire on Sydney's famous Bondi Beach, killing at least 11 people. One of the suspects also is dead. Another is in custody. NBC's Raf Sanchez is following the latest developments for us. Raf, what more can you tell us?
Well, Willie, Australian authorities are calling this a terrorist attack targeting the Jewish community as it was celebrating the first night of Hanukkah. Here's what we know. As you said, 2 gunmen opened fire with long guns. There are at least 11 people killed, including one of the shooters. The second gunman is in custody in critical condition, and authorities are now investigating whether a third individual was potentially involved. Now, amid the horror, there was also heroism. There is a video that is a little difficult to watch, but I want to show it to you in just a second here. You see, if we have that video, you see the man in white there running up and tackling that suspected gunman. There is a struggle, and you can see he appears to wrestle what looks like a shotgun out of that man's hands. Now, the individual in white has not at this point been identified, but local leaders are hailing what they say were extraordinary acts of personal courage by people who just jumped in at the scene. It is very likely that that man saved some lives by appearing to disarm that gunman. We know that at least 29 people were taken to hospital. Among them are 2 police officers. Authorities are saying police were on the scene and engaging in a gun battle with these shooters within just minutes.
Among those who've been killed, just a 10-year-old girl, a little girl. There were young families at this, and this is where it happened, just behind me, as you can see. We are heartbroken. We are devastated. I personally, as a Jewish Australian, on my nightly Sky News Australia program, have been begging the Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, and his government to take action on anti-Semitism for 2 years now. They have refused to take this issue seriously, and it has culminated in this unfathomable event, an unfathomable tragedy.
Australia is obviously already talking about guns, but they should consider that whether it's guns, pressure cooker bombs, or cars, we have seen plenty of car attacks in Europe, actually here in the United States. What they're sharing in common here is Islamic militant Islamism.
Welcome to Analysis. My name's Donna Clement Petrushka, and today Charlie Jordan is going to join us as we discuss the events of the past week. Welcome, Charlie Jordan.
Hi.
So glad you could join me again.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me again.
Well, Charlie, I just wanted to get your perspective on the things that are going on, because you were there with my dad since the early 90s. And so you will remember all the way back in 1993 even, when God began to reveal to him not only the warriors of the new millennium, but also the beast of the East. And so from the very beginning, when we first moved to the United States of America, God began to reveal to my dad the enemy that we would be facing in the coming generation. And that enemy is the beast of the East. And then we know that around 2010, Dad started to see the rise of a Fourth Reich. And this is after he'd spent years traveling to Israel. In the mid-2000s, he started to travel to Israel for the first time. God began to reveal to him the importance of Israel and of the Jewish people. And then, of course, we know he began to reveal to my dad the rise of the Fourth Reich. Dad was in the Netherlands and he was in France when these things were revealed to him. And he even sent me on a trip in 2012 through
Yeah,
Europe.
I remember that. Yeah.
He sent me to Poland, to Auschwitz. He sent me to Berlin. In Poland, when I was in Auschwitz, I ended up, and this was God for sure doing this, I met a BBC reporter who had a survivor with him. And she began to warn me at that time that it was coming again, that it was not defeated. The anti-Semitism, the deeds of the Holocaust, the Fourth Reich. And so it was incredible. You know, in the moment, Charlie, I didn't know what to even think. And even when the survivor I met, her name was Kitty, when I met her, she began to warn me about Middle Eastern countries. I remember her talking about Syria, and I forget, I've forgotten now, but she listed particular Muslim countries and warned that it was coming again. And me and the BBC reporter who was standing there with her in the Auschwitz Museum in Auschwitz in Poland said, look where we are. There's no way anything like this could happen again. And she warned us. She was old. She was a little girl in the Holocaust and lost her whole family. She was in that concentration camp in Birkenau in Poland. In Birkenau 1 is where she lost her mother there. And so I learned a lot on that trip, and it was a very prophetic trip Dad sent me on, wasn't it? And, it was very prophetic of him because he didn't go with us, too. I kept saying to him, why don't you just come with us, Dad? And he said, no, I can't for whatever reason. But I understand now, as I look back at that, and I stand now in 2025, and we're closing 2025 up now, that as we look around, we see that that is exactly what is happening. The rise in anti-Semitism on the left and on the right in the West has been shocking and unexpected, but it happened just as he prophesied and warned. And so today we're not going to be playing little prophecy clips because it's more of a broader thing that he was seeing in multiple prophecies. And I find the most important thing is that God gave us the warning of the enemy that we would face, which is the beast of the East. And the beast of the East, not just being Islam or Islamic extremism or whatever, it's also communism. And the joining of those things, if you remember him prophesying in 2014, he said that Russia would join hands with Iran. And so this whole year has really proven to reveal those prophecies coming to fulfillment. Now, the good news is that God spoke to my dad of the warriors of the new millennium, the unexpected group of people who didn't look churched, but they would be the ones who would rise up and defeat the beast of the East. And so we have that overarching story there, the storyline, I suppose the narrative that came from God through my dad. And it gave us the warning of the enemy, revealing who that enemy was, and then also the solution to the problem and a promise of victory. If you remember, in France, he prophesied about England and some other European countries, including France, that they would rise up against the beast of the East, but it would be they would defeat it the way they did in the 7th century, which was the time of the Crusades. Right. So we're in an incredible time. And so today, I wanted to really look at what has happened this past week, specifically this weekend, because we've had a number of attacks that are against the Jews. At Brown University, at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia, as well as in America. I just saw yesterday video of Jewish people being attacked on the subway. Someone was stabbed in the street yesterday just for being Jewish. This happening on the soil of the United States of America is something we did not expect to ever see, but we are. And so why don't we start with Brown University? That was in Rhode Island. And you know, Charlie, we used to travel to Rhode Island
A lot.
when I was a child with Dad. You remember going there quite often. And I don't know if you remember this, but I was looking at Brown University as a university I wanted to attend.
No, I didn't know that.
At one point, yes, I had even started the application, but they decided I didn't want to be that far away from my parents. But knowing that area, knowing that university, and then seeing what has happened has been was one of the events of this weekend, but is really quite surprising that we're not surprised, I'm sure, but we are also, because I just never thought I would see this kind of thing on the soil of the United States of America, and that it's happened in such a short time. 2012, when I was standing there at Auschwitz, it was impossible for me to imagine the world the way it is today, and it hasn't actually been that long.
That was what?
And so,
barely 10 years ago when you were there.
Yeah, a little over 10 years ago. So it's quite shocking how rapidly this has happened as well. And so I'd love to hear what you have to say.
First thing that you laid out, which is really a good foundation, because you start talking about how your father saw these things and when your father saw these things. And it's very important for people to really understand the nature of a true prophet of God, because what God does with a prophet, he takes the prophet to the event before the event happens. The prophet begins to experience the event before everyone else will experience the event. In other words, the prophet will go through the emotions of the event. He will go through the feelings of the event, and he will see the solution of the event. And all it is the nature of how your father operated. You see, now I said all of that to say this. You see, God sent your dad and I to Detroit to not only formulate and to have this sound, but your dad's feet had to be in that area, because first, as a matter of fact, your dad, he didn't stay in a hotel in Detroit or in Southgate. God sent him to Dearborn. He sent him to Dearborn. So your dad's feet were in Dearborn every time that we were there in Detroit. That's where he stayed. So that's very significant, because Dearborn has the largest Muslim Middle Eastern population per capita in the United States. And so he placed your father's feet there. Why? So that his boots would be on the ground, so that where the boot or the feet of the prophet or the feet of the righteous man will be on the place. What does the Bible say? I have given you the territory where your feet is. If you can see victory where I place you, victory shall come. So take and be encouraged, everyone, because see, God placed his prophet in that area so that not only he could see the events that we are beginning to experience now, but we know that we have the victory, because our job now is to truly, truly do exactly what the word says. We fight a good fight of faith. So our fight is faith. And so he was placed in Dearborn. And then he went back to France after being kicked out of France. Remember, he was kicked out of France way before I started traveling with him. And he said to God, I would never go back to France. But God sent him back to France. Now, why did we go to France? Yeah, we went to France for many reasons: to bless the people, to establish the kingdom prophetically in that region and in that country. But at the time, we didn't know that a large Muslim movement was happening in Europe, particularly in Paris and in France. Now look at that situation. We went to England, same thing. So the prophet's feet were placed there. Why? So that we will truly have the victory. And what is happening now with in America? One of the first places that I traveled with your dad, matter of fact, I went to San Diego, and then we went to Houston, and then the very next place that I went to was Providence, Rhode Island. And we begin to dwell in Providence. So all of this is very significant. Now, what has happened in Brown University, guys, it's an atrocity. It's without a doubt terrible. But we have in that region, we have so many people that have turned their backs on God. We have that that blue wall, I guess you, that's how they put it. They have this mentality of antichristness. Everything in that whole region now is antichrist. Okay, it really is. Now, I was sent this text, and I find this very interesting because we don't know who the shooter is, right? We have all this video footage, but we really don't know who the shooter is. But I was sent this text because what's going on X right now, they are beginning to think that this shooter at Brown University was a pro-Palestinian student. Now we see all of this that has taken place mostly at our higher learning facilities. All of this anti-Israel, anti-America slant, pro-Palestinians. We witnessing all of this right now. But guys, what's interesting is that in the notes that we have here, it's stated that out of all of this chaos, see, once chaos has been established, that opens up the door for something like this to happen. But guys, do you know that almost every Ivy League university that we have in this country was first based off of Christian values? It's a Christian evangelical based institution. Harvard in 1636 was Congregationist and Puritan. Yale, 1701 when it started, was Congregationalist. Princeton, 1746 when it started, was Presbyterian. Columbia and Brown University. Brown University was basically Baptist, but now they have turned away from it and they have opened the door for all of this silliness to happen. But I think with Brown University, guys, and everything that's happening in this country, I believe all of this had to happen so that we, the people of God, we now know exactly how to pray and how to target this that God has given us as far as his gifts and callings so that we can expose all of this wickedness and bring this really to an end.
Absolutely. And Charlie, I heard that the Brown University attack, the area that he shot was the office of a Jewish professor who was very pro-Israel. He was not there, I don't think. And I think the young girl who was shot and killed, one of them, was the head of the Republican club at the school. But the office, the area that the shooter went into, was of a pro-Israel Jewish professor. Right. And so it was obvious. And they've been covering up. I'm hearing they're scrubbing they scrubbed the social media platform of a particular pro-Palestinian student. And, this is something that we see again and again, is the authorities, for whatever reason, whether they're being bullied or they've been brainwashed or whatever's going on, do not want to publicly admit when there is a Muslim perpetrator. Many of these blue regions, like you were talking about the blue wall, those areas, they don't want to admit. If we shift over to the Bondi Beach attack, we know that was an attack against Jews who were, it wasn't just some random mass shooting of, I'm taking everybody out with me and whatever. It was a father and son who appeared to be trained in a country that has the strictest gun laws. I mean, they did the big gun buyback in the 90s in Australia, and supposedly that was going to help, but this still happened because the problem isn't the weapon, because any weapon can be used. We're seeing people getting stabbed. We're seeing vehicles being used to run through. I mean, we've seen it so many times, to run through crowds of people or run over people. Bombs are made. And obviously, they were able to acquire weapons. And this is the problem, is that the anti-gun people who, just get rid of the guns and the problem goes away, are not thinking, because a criminal does not obey the law. So what they do when they remove the guns from the citizens is they remove their ability to defend themselves at all. And that's what we saw happening on Bondi Beach, is that nobody could, even the police who showed up, the first group of officers were not armed. And some of them were too afraid to go in and do anything. And that's why we saw at the beginning, we played the clip of the, they're saying he's a Muslim because he has a Middle Eastern name, but I'm hearing he's actually a Christian. He's just Middle Eastern. I'm not sure if that's true, but I've
Now, is that the
seen
guy?
a number
Is
of
that
times.
the guy you're talking about, Nance Brown University?
The hero.
Oh, the hero. Oh, okay.
Who went in and took the gun away from one of the shooters at the Bondi Beach attack. And, you know, he was a hero for doing that. So brave. I would have been hiding, Charlie. He ran out there and he took that gun from him. And that was awesome to see. And so the left immediately came with, well, look, he's a Muslim. And so it's not the problem is not Islam. But number one, I don't think he was a Muslim. And even if he was, not all Muslims, we do understand, are terrorists. They want to, it's the same thing every time. If you criticize them, you're Islamophobic or you're being racist. And you can never then criticize them because anytime you do, that we've seen that happen just this week in Minneapolis with Ilhan Omar. The problem has nothing to do with race and everything to do with corruption in that state. And the Somali government obviously is intervening and helping that situation so that money is being sent back to Somalia. But the first thing they do is, oh, you're Islamophobic. You're prejudiced in some kind of way. How dare you notice that we stole $8 billion from the state of Minneapolis? How dare you? How dare you notice? And so that tactic being used again and again is really becoming old. And I think people are starting to especially people who've had enough, are starting to say, you know what, call me whatever name you want. You still stole $8 billion. Call me whatever name you want. You still murdered innocent Jewish people.
You know, have you heard of this lady named Bridget Gabriel? I think it's her last name. She's from Lebanon, and she's from the Middle East. And man, she has a podcast that is so powerful, and she speaks.
Yes, I know who
You know
she
who
is.
she is, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And you know, someone asked her a question. She's this Muslim lady asked her a question, and she was on a panel of people, and they were talking about the extremism of Islam and all of this stuff. Excuse me. And so this nice little Muslim lady asked her a question about Well, the question was, why are you coming against all Muslims? Because it's the extremists that's doing the crazy, stuff. But I'm just a regular Muslim. I don't believe in all that. And her retort or her response was this: I love that you are a law-abiding Muslim. But you see, you know what took place in Germany when Nazi Germany was coming to power? You know, there were a lot of nice, beautiful German people, but they were part of the minority, not the majority. What was very interesting is that you being the silent minority still didn't stop. No, the majority. I'm sorry, I got it backwards. They were the majority, the ones that were good, but it was the minority that came to power and brought about what happened in Israel, or brought about what happened in the Holocaust. And so when she presented that like that, that's how we have to see it. You know, the silent majority, which is good Muslims, okay? You're silent. You're not doing anything about it. It's the radical, loud minority that keeps bringing this stuff to the surface and bringing all this hell upon the earth. And we can't listen or be held back because of the silent majority. Because you guys are silent. You need to speak up. You need to bring those out. You need to expose every last one of them and get them out of your society so that if you want to remain Muslim, be a Muslim, but be of peace.
Right. And, you know, unfortunately, Charlie, what we do understand is that it's not just a religion, it's an ideology.
Yeah.
And there are some very deep flaws within that ideology. And in the Quran, where it's okay, Christy has educated us on taqiyya and how it's okay to be deceptive to meet the ends of converting the world.
Yeah, that's their whole goal, man. Their whole goal is to convert the whole world. And that's just all it is to it.
And it's, you know, like you said, But we wish no ill on any peaceful Muslim people. We wish no ill on any of them. But we can no longer turn a blind eye when in one weekend, how many attacks have we seen? And somebody said something interesting the other day. I've forgotten who it was, but they said they always go for the Jews first. And the reason that's an interesting point is because that's not all they're going to do. It's not just the Jewish people, and that's it. It's the Jewish people first, and then it will be the Christians, and then it will be everybody else. We know that because of the Iranian Revolution. That is exactly the same tactics they're using on the West right now. They used in Iran, and they took over that country and imprisoned a nation and generations of people by joining hands with the liberal, progressive socialists, with the Islamists, who turned around and betrayed them at the end and killed them. So many of those liberals that fought with the Muslims to take over Iran were killed afterwards, more than 30,000 people. And so you see the tactic is the same. You see them infiltrating the universities and the schools across the West, in America and in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, all of those you just named the universities in America and how they were all originally Christian. But if you look at the country of Turkey, Afghanistan, those were Christian countries until they were invaded by Islam and taken over. And in my lifetime, I've never known those countries to be Christian, but they used to be. And so it's a very obvious thing that's happening, and the tactics are the same. Infiltrate from within, go into the universities and corrupt the mind of the youth because they're the next generation. So they're very patient as far as that. And Dad prophesied about the infiltration. He prophesied about the enemy from within, that they would infiltrate. He prophesied about attacks that wouldn't be of the level of 9/11 in a bombing and a huge, violent, massive attack all in one, but rather a clever plan in which they come in, they migrate here. They have more children than we do while they're telling us to abort our children. Yeah. And then they know that they're going to, in a democracy, they can just vote us out. And that is exactly what is happening. The birth rates in the United States of America and in the West are declining like this. And all of the immigrants who are coming in are having tons of kids. And when I say immigrant, I don't just mean your basic immigrant. I mean the Muslims who understand why they're immigrating. That's why they come here, and they complain. And they complain about America and how it's such a terrible place. Well, if you were immigrating somewhere because you wanted to go live there, you wouldn't hate it. So it's obviously a tactic that many of them understand. I've seen video after video after video of Muslim men, because the women don't get to say much, saying just that. We're going to outbreed you. Yeah. We're gonna in a generation, we're gonna take over the vote. In Texas, where you are, how many mosques and whole neighborhoods are being taken over?
Yeah. I mean, plain on.
And so you see, and so you see those tactics being used, and if you can see that, it is so obvious. But you'll have, as in Australia, after the Bondi Beach attack, Prime Minister came out and said, "Well, we need to make sure we're aware of right-wing Islamophobia. That's the problem here, is the right and conservatives who are Islamophobic, not the two men who just went and murdered people all across the beach. No, not them. Don't dare say anything about Islam." Right. And this is happening in England, and it's happening in France. It's happening all across Europe, where these leaders, whether they're being bullied, whether they're being paid, whatever is happening, and I think it's different things in different places, are too afraid to actually call it out for what it is, because they're so afraid of being called a name. And so, unfortunately,
thank God we got a president that is not afraid to speak his mind.
And that's why we know God, that's why God had Trump for this
Yes.
season. He's the kind of president we needed to face this kind of
Yeah, he's not going to always say it, stuff that everybody's going to like, but he speaks his mind, man. He speaks what he feels. And that's what's so important. And that's what we need. And you know what? Different countries and different people that are coming into leadership in different countries are following that example. I'm telling you, I mean, yes, things are looking bad and things are crazy, but guys, we have, just like what I said at the beginning of this broadcast, the prophet's feet was placed in a region. Why? Because God saw all of this happening, and the prophet brought revelation to what's going to happen. And once we receive revelation, now we have the ability to bind and loose. Guys, we are going to win this thing. This thing is going to be stopped, and it's going to be exposed, but we can't play games either. We can't be, everything's going to be all right. Now, let's put your boots on, man. Let's strap our boots on now. Let's get ready to get dirty. Let's get into the fight. What fight is that? Faith. The good fight.
Right. And you know what's interesting, about wherever my dad was, where he put his boots on the ground. You mentioned Dearborn. But, I mean, look at what's happening in Texas. We moved to Texas. Look, we lived in Texas for 13 years. Then we moved to California. Look at what's happening in California, where he lived even. So not just where he was going, but where he lived. And then God sent him to England. Again in 2015, you went with him. England to France, and he prophesied about this again. So again and again, Dad was seeing what was going to happen. But the good thing is that he saw a victory. Yeah. The good thing is that he saw that they would overcome. And actually, when he was in France, when he prophesied about that, he said, England will join forces with France, I think the Netherlands, and he named a couple of Italy. He named the countries that we're starting to see this could be a possibility, but that they would overcome the way they did in the 7th century, the Muslim invasion, and also an agreement between Russia and Iran. And so we're watching those prophecies right now very closely, because we're watching England, especially England and France, announcing to their population that they should prepare for war with Russia. And so that's why the code breaking is so important with Dad's prophecies too, because these are not what were seemingly isolated prophecies when he prophesied them, and in the years after, it appeared that they were isolated. But now, as we stand in this moment, we understand that they're all connected. And remember how he used to talk about the tapestry.
Right.
And so it's so interesting and it's very important for us to keep that perspective, You can go to the news and find out what happened on the news, but it's very important to have prophetic insight.
Right.
And spiritual insight into what's going on. That is key to the overcoming of this enemy. But we have a news clip to play. Netanyahu warning America. So let's play that and we'll come back.
On August 17th, about 4 months ago, I sent Prime Minister Albanese of Australia a letter in which I gave him warning that the Australian government's policy was promoting and encouraging anti-Semitism in Australia. I wrote, "Your call for a Palestinian state pours fuel on the anti-Semitic fire. It rewards Hamas terrorism. It emboldens those who menace Australian Jews and encourages the Jew hatred now stalking your streets. Anti-Semitism is a cancer. It spreads when leaders stay silent. It retreats when leaders act. I call upon you to replace weakness with action, appeasement with resolve. Instead, Prime Minister, you replaced weakness with weakness and appeasement with more appeasement. Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. You did nothing to curb the cancer cells that were growing inside your country. You took no action. You let the disease spread. And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today. We saw an action of a brave man, turns out a Muslim brave man, and I salute him, that stopped one of these terrorists from killing innocent Jews. But it requires the action of your government, which you're not taking. And you have to, because history will not forgive hesitation and weakness. It will honor action and strength. That's what Israel expects of each of your governments in the West and elsewhere, because the disease spreads and it will consume you as well. But we are worrying right now about our people, our safety, and we do not remain silent. We fight those who try to annihilate us. They're not only trying to annihilate us, they attack us because they attack the West. In Syria, we saw yesterday 2 American soldiers killed and 1 American interpreter killed as well. Killed because they represent our common culture. Now, as a result of this, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said the following. He said, "Let it be known that if you target Americans anywhere in the world, you will spend the rest of your brief, anxious life knowing the United States will hunt you, find you, and ruthlessly kill you." We send our condolences to the people of America, and I want to say that our policy is exactly that policy. That's why those who target Israelis, target our soldiers, try to kill them or try to hurt them and wound them, as happened in Gaza yesterday, we take action. They will spend the rest of their brief, anxious lives knowing that Israel will hunt them, find them, and ruthlessly dispose of them. That is American policy. This is Israel's policy. It's our policy in Gaza, in Lebanon, anywhere around us. We do not sit by and let these killers kill us.
Wow.
That's exactly how you're supposed to deal with that. Go Netanyahu. That is how you deal with this kind of
That's
problem.
right.
I'm sorry, you guys. I actually said that he was giving a warning to America. I meant to say Australia.
But he also spoke to America too, though.
He did, yes, because we did have those the soldiers that were killed in Syria just this past week as well. So this has been a rough week, Charlie. I think also we saw the vicious slaughter of Rob Reiner and his wife by his own son, by their own son. As well as another, there was an opera singer, I've forgotten his name now, but he was also this past weekend murdered by his own son. And both of those murders, by the way, were done with knives. And so the gun people really need to catch a wake up and realize that it's not the guns, there's a problem in people. Yeah. There are ideologies that are very dangerous, and they're too afraid to say anything. And so I was very appreciative of Benjamin Netanyahu, what he just said, because he's exactly right.
Do you remember what your dad said?
If you stay silent, what?
You remember what he said when we were in Israel?
Which thing?
He said, "Netanyahu, you are the one that God has chosen to speak." He said that Netanyahu was not just a prime minister, but he's a prophet. And he also said that the president that we have is not just a president, but he's a prophet. Both of these men, God prophesied through your dad, my mentor, Prophet Kim Clement, about the things that are happening right now. And I'm telling you right now, guys, I'm encouraged. That's why I had a smile on my face. Yes, this is disturbing and it's sad, and I've been praying for them. But guys, just like your dad always used to tell me, Charlie, we have to see tomorrow. You got to be in tomorrow, because that's where God is, and that's where he wants us to be. Why? Because that's where his kingdom is. It's righteousness, peace, and joy. And so remember that illustration he used to give? A church was doing very well, and everybody was so excited, and the prophet was on this front row. He was sad. He said, "Man, what's wrong with you?" He said, "Well, I'm seeing 6 months down the way, and this church is going to be split up. It's going to be, some bad things are going to happen." And sure enough, that happened. And then now the pastor is up trying to reconcile and trying to get things together after everything that the prophet prophesied took place. Now he looks on the front row, and that's the prophet, having a party on the front row. He said, now what are you doing? He said, because I'm 6 months down the road, I'm seeing restoration taking place, and this church is going to be at a higher position than what it was yesterday. That's the attitude that we have to be. We have to see tomorrow.
That is absolutely the truth, Charlie. And you know what? I just really want to take this moment to encourage everybody, because it is frightening when you see these things happening. When you see them happening, and they're not happening far away somewhere in the Middle East, they're happening right on our doorstep. It's happening right in our country. But the good thing is that God knew. He sent my dad to warn us and prepare us. And those of you watching right now, many of you have been with us for years, some of you decades, and you do understand this. You understand the prophetic. And some of you, you're here for the first time, maybe, and you don't understand what's going on. But what we have here at the House of Destiny is something very special, and that is an understanding of the prophetic. Not only do we have my dad, who was a supreme example of a modern day prophet, and God sent him to the United States of America to warn and encourage as we go through. And although he's not here anymore, that's even more of a testament to the prophetic, because he wasn't here to form an opinion for any of these things. Yet he prophesied so much of what we're seeing. And the things that he prophesied were the things that God needed us to know, so that we could continue, so that we could get to that victory that we know is there in the future for us. And we're getting closer and closer to that victory. And so before we go today, I just want to encourage anybody who feels led to sow into our ministry and what we're doing. Without you, without your support, we would not have been able to get these prophecies out to the people who needed to hear them, including the President of the United States. And had it not been for your support and you standing with us, even when we lost my dad, through all of these years, because you stood with us, those prophecies were taken to the very top, to the leadership who needed to hear it, so that we could attain that victory. And I know that this road is a difficult road. And sometimes you may think, oh, I don't like something that President Trump said, or I don't like this or that that's going on. It's not going to be perfect. But we do know, my dad prophesied just of Trump, that he would be a trumpet. What does a trumpet do? It makes a loud noise, gets people's attention. And that is what Trump did. And then he prophesied that he would build the walls of protection around this nation. We can understand why that would be needed now, especially after the Biden years, where they opened the border up. And again, if you say anything about it, they try to throw at you, oh, you're prejudiced against foreigners. I'm a foreigner. We're not prejudiced against foreigners or immigrants. We're prejudiced against the fact, not prejudiced, we're just against the fact that when you open your doors, people with ill intent who hate this country, who want to destroy it and take it over, had an open door to walk in and nobody checking. And so there was no way to check who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. That's why you have that process. And so my dad, seeing that the President Trump would build the walls of protection around this nation, is key to the moment we're in right now, as well as the economy, what he promised, what he saw about the economy, which would ultimately lead to death to debt. So you see that there's purpose in these prophecies. And so as we stand in this moment, we know that my dad prophesied the rise of a Fourth Reich, but he also saw it fall. He also saw that we, God's people, would overcome it, and it would only be through one name, and that's the name of Jesus. And so I want you to remember that as you go through these experiences, as you're seeing across your screens, whether it's your phone or your television, wherever, frightening images. You know, something I noticed recently is that, and I keep talking about this because I'm recognizing this as an issue, is that we, with the technology and the social media and all the stuff we have, we are being exposed to extraordinary violence, where in the past we wouldn't have seen so much of the violence. Now, daily, we're seeing images that are frightening, and that can be very intimidating. So I just want to encourage you today, if you're watching, to not be afraid, Do not allow these things to make you afraid, because that's not good. And so we here at the House of Destiny want to give you something to hope for. And that's what we have in these prophecies. And that's what makes our ministry so unique, is that we have in what my dad prophesied that are still coming to pass today, because they're needed in this season to get us to the victory that we know is there. And so keep that in your mind. When you're worried about your finances, keep in your mind death to debt. My dad prophesied that over and over and over again. The very last broadcast he ever did, he prophesied death to debt. And so ultimately that is what that will lead to. In a time when we are in extraordinary debt and it seems impossible, God has a promise for us, and that's death to that debt. So there's a lot of change happening and a lot of frightening things, but we want to encourage you today. And we want to encourage you too to sow into this ministry if it's blessed you. And we thank you to those of you who have done that and been obedient and sacrificed and given to us so that we could continue this work. And so I don't know, Charlie, if you want to pray before we say goodbye today. I think it would be good if we could just say a prayer together as we go into the week of Christmas and so much uncertainty. I know that God has a word for you, through you, to give to everybody.
Yes, as we can see, there's so much chaos, so much division, there's hatred, there's murder. We're seeing all of this, the uptick of this that's taking place, all of the protests and the things that have, people are being set on fire in subways. They just sitting there minding their business, and this crazy person just comes up and lights them on fire. We're seeing all this stuff that's happening. I just want to remind you of a word that came on March 25th, 2011, because all of this that is happening, this Esther is about to arise. But I want you guys to hear me. Whenever God speaks of an individual, it's not for an individual only. It's for everyone that can receive it. If you can receive it and see it, then you can become it. You see, what did God say? She shall have the oil of gladness for the pain and the mourning that has taken place. We've seen plenty of pain, and people are mourning all over this country and countries around the world. And God went on to say, and she shall pour out this oil. She shall pour it out on this nation. And God says, healing shall begin, and then it shall flow rapidly. Schools will be free from potential danger and damage. Look what just happened at Brown University. Okay? Shootings, murder, drug addictions, cartels shall be afraid of a woman anointed by God, a woman set aside. So therefore, the healing that is necessary for this nation shall come at a time in the middle of the presidency. There shall be a woman that shall come, and God said, there shall be oil that shall be poured upon the nation, and they shall suddenly feel the healing, and they shall say, it is well with my soul, it is well with our soul, for the soul of America has been corrupted. The soul of this nation has been corrupted with bitterness and anger. And God said, she shall say, no more bitterness, no more anger, no more division. And she'll pour the oil that shall come from the Spirit of the Lord himself. If you are in agreement with this, the Lord told us to shout yes to Esther. And I want to say today on this broadcast, if you are in agreement with this, say yes to Esther, that this oil that shall come from her is also upon me, and I will pour the oil. You know what's so beautiful about the Esther story is Esther knew that she couldn't do it by herself. So what did she ask her people to do? For 3 days, fast like me, Esther said, for 3 days. And the nation followed suit. Let's follow suit with what God has already said. He's already given us the victory, everyone. He's already shown us everything that is taking place. We see all of this happening right now. And as you sow, I want you to think about this, that the very thing that God said then is available and applicable to us right now. So when you sow, you say, God, I'm sowing into this future that you showed us way back in 2011. And now we have arrived at this place. I'm sealing this with faith. So my faith is being seen through this that I am sowing. Because now is the time for us to walk in this victory. So Father God, open up the hearts and the minds and the eyes of all that are watching and that shall watch. Let them see what I see. Let them see what Danae see. Let them see what all of us here at House of Destiny, what we see. For we truly see the victory. We truly see that this that you determined before we were ever placed here is truly yes and amen, and it shall come to pass. We give you honor, we give you praise, and we thank you now in the beautiful, precious name of your Son, Yeshua. Let us all say amen and amen.
Amen and amen. Thank you so much, Charlie. That was beautiful. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're going into the Christmas week. Next week, we have a special broadcast for you on Christmas Eve. Trey Smith and I are going to discuss prophecy together. So make sure you don't miss us next week. We will have a broadcast for you, a very special one. Danae and Trey Smith, and we're looking at prophecy together. And also, all week long, don't miss anything we have here at the House of Destiny Network. Just want to say thank you again, Charlie Jordan, for joining us today. And we will be back next week.
Hello friends, I'm coming to you today with an urgent boots-on-the-ground update from Southeast Asia. This information comes directly from our dear friend Amy at Love Without Boundaries, who has been in constant contact with the teams on the ground along the Cambodia-Thailand border. She asked us to share what the children and families in our program are facing right now. Over the past several days, renewed military clashes, including artillery shelling and F-15 airstrikes, have struck civilian areas across several provinces. Entire neighborhoods have been shaken by explosions. As of today, at least 7 civilians have been killed, many more have been injured, and over 54,000 people have been forced to flee their homes. Because the fighting is moving dangerously close to residential communities, the government has issued mandatory evacuations all along the border. Many school buildings have already been damaged or destroyed, and thousands of children have been transported to temporary safe zones farther inland. At this moment, according to Amy's latest update, no Love Without Boundaries school buildings have been damaged, but all schools in the region, including ours, have been officially closed. Children in our education and foster care programs are evacuating with their families, and most of our teachers and staff have already relocated to safer areas. Our Cambodian director, Leng, is still on the ground. He shared that he can hear the fighting drawing closer each day. His first priority has been ensuring that every child in our programs is safe. Once that is complete, he will evacuate for his own protection as well. Friends, this is a frightening and uncertain moment for the families that we serve. Many have left everything behind, carrying only what they could hold in their hands. Children are scared and confused, communities have been scattered, and the path forward, at least for now, feels very unclear. But here is what brings hope. They are not alone. Because of your generosity, your prayers, and partnerships like the one we cherish with Love Without Boundaries, these children have support. They have advocates. They have people, you, standing with them in their hour of need. Emergency care and vital resources are already being mobilized to help families survive this crisis. And as Amy shared with us, knowing that House of Destiny is praying and standing with them means more than words can say. We are deeply grateful for your compassion. Please continue to pray with us for protection, for provision, and for peace to come swiftly to this region. On behalf of House of Destiny, and with heartfelt thanks to Amy and everyone at Love Without Boundaries for these updates, thank you for caring for these children and their families. We love you, and we will continue to keep you informed as more updates come in.
Hello, friends. I'm Danae Clement Petrushka, and I am honored to invite you to something truly extraordinary, the Kim Clement Prophecy Vault. Now you can gain unprecedented access to my father's entire digitized video archive. Every prophetic moment, every powerful teaching, every anointed worship session is now available to you in the Prophecy Vault. Plus, I'm excited to share that my dad's special School of the Prophets teachings are included, offering you deep, transformative lessons on hearing God's voice and understanding his revelations. Your partnership is crucial. Not only will you gain access to these incredible resources, but you'll also help us continue the vital work of preserving, digitizing, and adding new Kim Clement material to the archives. I'm inviting you to step into the Kim Clement Prophecy Vault. Let's embark on this journey of revelation together, and I can't wait to see you inside. We have Andrew Sorcini from Beverly Hills Precious Metals with us today. Someone has a 401k. Can they take some of that and purchase gold as an investment for their future?
They can, and it's a great way to do it, because if you have an IRA, a government TSP account, a 401k from a company that you used to work at but don't work at anymore, or if you still work at the company and you're over 59 and a half, these can be rolled over into a precious metals IRA. And if you were to speak to your financial advisor about it, they'll tell you, oh, this is a taxable event. They'll tell you things like gold and silver are volatile. But really, the thing is, they don't want you to get into precious metals because it doesn't benefit them monetarily. I'm here to tell you that your accounts can be rolled into a precious metals IRA without it being a taxable event. You would own real gold and silver that is stored in a third-party depository that's insured in a lockbox with your name on it.
So if someone goes to bh-pm.com, is that the correct website? Okay, and that's going to be on the bottom of the screen. If they go there today, what do they need to do?
Okay, so there's an online form there, and the form, almost every page on the website has the online form. So you just fill in your first name, last name, email address, telephone number, say that Kim Clement sent you, or the House of Destiny. We'll know what you mean. And in the notes section, be as detailed as you can. Sometimes people put things in there like, I'm a complete novice. I really don't understand precious metals. I've been wanting to understand. I want to invest, but really, I need more information first. Then put that in there. If you're someone that's been investing in gold and silver for years and really don't need a consultation, you just want to check prices, then put that in there.
Everybody watching, if you are interested in precious metals, this is where you want to go. Thanks again.
Thank you.